Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about blocking. So what do I mean by blocking? Blocking is kind of the next step. I've already talked about the cognitive functions, what I prefer to call the information metabolism elements. And the idea of elements, they're kind of, well, look at the periodic table in chemistry. These elements are essentially what each atom can be, right? They're the fundamental building blocks of reality, unless you go subatomic. Atoms make up existence, and each of the elements are essentially a pure atom of a kind, whether that's hydrogen or it's helium. The same sort of idea for information metabolism elements, except it's about information rather than just matter. It's information, but it's intuitive, it's thinking, it's sensing, whatever it is. Now, the next stage is taking these atoms of information and blocking them together to form molecules. And in Jungian typology, it is about forming bonded pairs of these atoms. These bonded pairs, for them to bond, there are certain rules. You can't just bond any element to any other element. To form a block, it has to follow certain rules. These rules are, first of all, they have to be different in extrovertedness and introvertedness, right? The idea is that there's always one side of it that is expanding and increasing and accumulating, and there's another side which meshes in, which is refining and reducing and improving the quality of this blocking. That's important for a blocking. The other thing is that one has to be rational, one has to be irrational. The idea being that rationality has to be exercised on a medium or used to bring together different things. And yes, you kind of need them to be different for that to work. Now, this leads me to what do they always have in common? They always have in common static or dynamic. And this is kind of like how much that thing changes. If it's a sort of gradual change, is it a holistic sort of shapeless thing that is gradually constantly changing all the time, quite fluid? Or is it something just quite set? And if it changes, it breaks entirely. Well, you can't have something which is set, and if it changes, it breaks entirely, interacting with something which is fluid. It just doesn't really block. If two solid set things, static things, have to kind of mesh together, they need to be able to mesh together. Something which is both one thing which is fluid and constantly moving around has to then interact with something else which is fluid to actually again have an effect. Otherwise there's going to be some sort of erosion or some sort of grinding of gears. It just wouldn't really work metaphysically. So you've got to have in the blocking two things. They're different in extroversion and introversion. They're different in rationality and irrationality, but they're the same in either both being static or both being dynamic. So, and yeah, there are these two kinds of pairings. What you essentially get is the static pairing. That is more about some kind of introverted, rational, either a structure or it is attitudes being used to essentially bond together a disparate set of different things. These different things being either potential things, so extroverted intuition, or it can be real concrete things, which will be extroverted sensing. So, yeah, that's the kind of the idea for blocking that, in the static blocking at least. They have real or potential, disparate, lots of different things, all being bonded together, almost like with strands of structure or personal attitude to bring that together. Almost like a web, or like a brick wall with the cement fixing it in place. So that's very much a static example. The dynamic example is what I'll cover perhaps tomorrow in a different video. So I'll go into that one later. So today we're just talking about the static blockings. So the first static blocking I want to talk about is extroverted sensing with introverted thinking. And yes, so that's a case where you have two external things coming together. Remember I talked about external versus internal? Thinking and sensing were both external. So this is doubly external. It's very clear, it's very obvious, and real and concrete in its nature. It is the most like the brick wall, you could say, in quite a literal sense. So, yes, this is real concrete things being tied together by explicit rules and structures. What could be an example of that? Well, a very clear example is any sort of structure, really. So, any structure in real life, at least. The building of a wall literally is introverted logic and extroverted sensation. It is the decision that these, first of these blocks, real, concrete masses of things, and a decision that is going to be aligned in this way, is going to be set up. This goes on top of this, this goes on top of this, goes on top of this, that goes against there, that goes against there, etc. So again, it's very much a structure in your head. Oh, this is going to be how it's going to line up in this sort of way, and then imposing that structure, that coherent understanding onto the physical reality. So a wall, a building, anything in architecture could very much be linking up on a metaphysical level to extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. Another very good example, right, is DNA. Because DNA, the code which decides what we are like, very much a sort of ordaining structure that makes us who we are fundamentally. And for instance, I have no choice except to grow a strangely ginger beard with my brown hair. That is genetic. Lots of other things genetic about me. My height, for instance, I'm not very tall. That is very much decided by the rules of DNA interacting with the physical mass, the matter of my body. The cells making me up, quite literally. So that's sort of the metaphysical understanding of extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. Rules instantiating, or rules that materialize in reality, in a real concrete form. That's the metaphysical side. But what about the psychological side? Because the point is, the whole idea of personality types is that different personalities orientate themselves towards different kinds of blockings of information. Well, the idea here is that the most obvious blocking psychologically is going to be the dominant or leading and the auxiliary or creative function. But you're going to have other blockings as well, and we'll explore that more when we go into different types. But essentially, if you look at, say, an ESTP, that's going to be extroverted sensing and introverted thinking, a good example. The introverted form as well, in terms of introverted thinking at the top and extroverted sensation in the second form, should be very similar in terms of the kind of information they are oriented towards, which is extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. So what is that going to be like? Well, it's doubly external. So types oriented towards this information are going to be very much about what is explicit and making things very, very clear. The reason why it's clear, it is absolute. There is no ambiguity. There's no vagueness. There's no room for, it could be this, it could be that. Oh, I don't know how I feel about it. None of that. This is what it has to be. This is the situation. This is what we're doing. This is what I think is the right thing. This is the correct. This is the absolute truth. And that sort of very absolute confidence and ability to exercise one's intellect and will to make things a certain way. That is very much what these types are about. They bring certainty. They bring absoluteness. They're the ones who come up in situations of chaos and they impose order and structure onto that chaos. That can be in terms of a soldier, a general, a conquering commander, someone who goes out and actually could conquer many different countries, and Alexander the Great figure who imposes their structure onto the realities of many nations. But it can also be someone who's there to enforce the rules. Think of bouncers. Think of policemen. Think of people who are, right, this is out of kilter, I'm going to restore order quite forcefully to that surroundings, to bring peace through absolute clarity and understanding of what is actually expected. A philosopher which is very much known for being extroverted sensing and introverted thinking oriented was Hobbes. Hobbes came up with the idea of the society, and it's composed of people, of course. But people will do whatever they can that they can get away with. They will be naughty, they will murder, they will pillage, they will steal, all those sorts of things. And what prevents people from doing that, to actually have a functional society, is to have essentially a tyrant, a leviathan, someone with the ability through the exercise of their will to impose authority and structure and clarity, where there are rules and there are consequences for breaking the rules. Very clear consequences, no dilly-dallying. If you do this, this will be done to you. Very clear, very effective. Very much leaves people no doubt of what's going to happen if they contravene the rules. That's very much what extroverted sensing and introverted thinking is oriented towards. So it has a potential for great good and also potential for great evil. Our legal and justice system, well, I say not less so the English one, that's a bit more pragmatic, but look at most European legal and justice systems and the Napoleonic Code. Very much something which brought peace and stability to many countries. Very much a sort of top-down structure, this is how it's going to be. That must have saved many, many lives, prevented all sorts of crime going on. There's also, of course, the potential for negativity. This can become tyrannical. This can become, if not tyrannical, very, very disruptive. The tyrannical side, think of George Orwell's 1984, where extroverted sensing and introverted thinking taken to its most extreme can be seen as quite an evil, potentially evil thing. There's also the more disruptive side, because if you are introverted thinking and extroverted sensation, and you're up against other people with other views that contradict your own, you may not brook that kind of opposition. You may be the sort of person who wants to go in and overturn that existing structure, existing theory. A lot of revolutionaries. In the same way that you've got the authoritarian side, the people who are already in power and asserting their will through structure, you've got people who are on the other end of that, who have a different structure in mind, and they're going to overthrow that structure and build something anew. Think of the French Revolution, think of the Russian Revolution. Lots of introverted thinking, extroverted sensation in place there. And the idea is that we are now going to impose our will to create society the way we want it, rather than the way that the corrupt, unjust old king wanted it. So there's often that goes along. A lot of ideological conflict going on, of course. Although it's something we don't see so much in the West, it's still there in the West. We see it. We see it a lot more in other places, and certainly going back in history. Culturally, at least officially, I think we sort of moved away from this way of thinking. We've almost demonized it to some degree, but it's a very key and important part of existence. If we didn't have boundaries in terms of law and structure, if we didn't have, for instance, the ability to enforce our borders, we wouldn't really have countries. There are lots of things which we don't necessarily like to talk about, which are very much in terms of extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. So, yeah, very much about clarity, very much the type which leaves no loose ends in setting out what things are. It can also be about controlling the narrative, in terms of by saying this is how things are, and quite dominatingly saying that again and again and again and again, people come to accept that is how things are. That is the structure. That is the truth. So, yeah, as I said, 1984 is a very extreme example of that, taken to its most possibly evil way possible. So, yeah, that's extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. They can... I'd also talk about hierarchy. I haven't talked about it before. Hierarchy in terms of the pecking order, where you are. Are you the king? Are you the baron? Are you the knights? Are you the serfs? Think also about ideas such as alpha males and beta males and sigma males. Very much extroverted sensing and introverted thinking people consider things in these terms. That where are you in the pecking order? Where are you in the structure based on your muchness, your assertiveness, your will, your masculinity? That definitely plays quite a strong role in how some people like to think and to have status. How far up are you up the ladder in terms of your status and your hierarchy and your power? A lot of people are like this. It's a very strong part of society, and sometimes I think people like to pretend we're not like this, or like to pretend that we've kind of risen above such things. But really, these are the sort of things which an extroverted sensation and introverted thinking sort of type would say, oh, this is a luxury. You have a luxury of being able to think this way. Just wait for when society collapses. You're going to need the real tough people to go and take charge after this. The Walking Dead, for instance, TV series. A lot of extroverted sensation and introverted thinking comes back because that is kind of needed to survive in this brutal land we're in right now. So yeah, that's extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. I hope that was helpful. I'll cover the others next.